Hello, hello, hello. It's me, Michelle, your vanilla horror host of Coffee Fueled Stories, and we have another fresh brewed episode with very special guest, Tonya Kappes. Hello, welcome to the show.
Hey, thanks for having me, Michelle. I love this so much. And if anybody knows me, they know I love coffee a lot. So when I started following you on Instagram and you asked me to come on the show, I'm just thrilled to be here because
Uh,
I love both coffee and books, but I really love coffee.
and that's why you had to come on. You had to come on. You have written, is it 180 books? Is that the count now?
Well, I think it counts like at 189, but yes, so around that.
And
A
they're all
lot.
they're all cozies, yes? They're all cozy mysteries?
Well, yeah. Well, initially, when I first started writing about 14 years ago, I thought I was writing romance. And a friend of mine, she's like, "Are you sure you don't write mysteries? Because one, they barely give each other the side eye, and two, there's a dead body." And I'm like, "Oh my God!" And I'm like, "You're right. I can't write romance. I raised four boys. I didn't want to see another male part in a book. I just could not write romance. So I just killed them now." I mean, they're great kids and they're all adults. They're all 25, 26 soon to be and up to 31. But, I thought, oh, I'm going to write romance. And there's not a romantic bone in my pinky.
I love it. I love it. And so now I have lots of questions and I'm going to be probably all over the place. So I do apologize because coffee is why we are here originally. However, I do need to ask you some writing questions being that this
Yeah.
is a writing podcast. So let's get the hard questions out of the way so we can get to the fun questions.
Good deal. And I
So,
got my coffee.
all right. So we've got our coffee. Yes.
Hmm.
Cheers. Um,
Cheers.
so you do writing on the road, you do writing at home. So my question to you is because of the writing process and writers have like a mood and a vibe and you have to set the mood in order to get ready to write. Do you have the same vibe, setup or process when you're on the road as you do when you're at home?
So at home, I have this office in my home, and then I have a writing shed. I live in 145 acres of woods in Kentucky, and currently we have flooding down below. So I'm stuck in my house. I can't go anywhere right now. It'll recede the next couple of days, but luckily I'm up in the mountain here of that, and it's the Ohio River that's flooded. But up in the woods, I have a writing shed, and then I also have my camper that's parked outside that we travel in. And so each thing I have to have and every one of those, I'm so comfortable and I've been so routine in writing in those that I know, like, obviously it doesn't look like my office, but I have the same things. Like I have my computer, I have my planner, and then I have a book Bible, and I also keep every one of my series um, is it as I turn around, sorry, I had to look at the back of my head.
It's okay.
People like used a lot of digital things, and so I'm still kind of that paper girl. So every one of my series has an address book, and so this one just so happens to be the coffee series because I'm writing in that now. And so when you open it up, it's just like an address. So her name is Roxy the Sleuth. So immediately I can go to the R, and it's everything about her. Now on the road, it probably would be a lot easier to do digitally. But my mind doesn't work that way. And so that's why I take whatever I'm writing with me, the address book and my laptop. And then I always have to have, I love percolated coffee. I know that's so weird. But I love hot, good percolated coffee. And so I have to have my coffee pot there with me, but I don't necessarily need internet or anything like that to write. Though each one of those has like an internet type thing, and I have to have a blanket. And so, because I'm always wrapped up in my blanket and my socks. So, that is something that I have to have in each one of those. But I'm so comfortable. Like if I was, when we go like to a hotel, it's hard for me to get into that vibe because I'm like, oh, it's new. I don't know the sounds of it. I haven't written here before. So it takes me a good couple of days before I can really, get into writing there. I can write at any time of the day. None of that bothers me. But the place sure does. So, like if my husband is in the house, it drives me batty if I'm in here working, because I could even just hearing him, and sometimes I talk out loud to myself or I dictate. And so he'll like, "Hey, what?" I'm like, "I'm not talking to you," And so that's, the things that's the reason why I have so many places to go, on property is so I can, go and work. And I, make sure that I get at least 4 hours of good writing time a day without interruption. And so,
Nice.
yeah.
How long did it take you to find that rhythm? How many years did it take you to find that
Oh my
process?
gosh. So, I was a full-time therapist. And first I was a teacher, but when I started writing, I was a therapist, a child therapist. And so I would have to come home at night to write, or I would have to write in the car, and during car line or at my kids' practices, or things like that. So I pretty fairly quickly knew that this was a passion of mine, and just a passion that I had. I never knew that I would become a full time writer, as my main job. And so I quickly knew when I put my mind to something, I can quickly overcome a lot of things and get it done when I need to get done. So fairly quickly, and being a mom of four boys, you can really block out a lot of things. And so was really good at that as well. And so I knew that if I wanted to do this, full time, then I had to know how to write at night when they were put to bed. At practices, again, I knew I needed to write, but I also had to have my job because I love being a therapist, still love being a therapist. I would do it again today if I had to, but definitely, had to fairly quickly learn with three little ones that you had to, you know, get through it if you want to do this as a job.
For sure. And that
Yeah.
actually was going to the next question I was going to ask you if you weren't writing, if you weren't a full time, so you answered that question. So
Yes, I loved it. I loved working with all sorts of families and all sorts of kids. And, I worked, a lot with, lower income families. And also, some people that was able to pay insurance. But, yeah, my husband said that, he was glad that I quit because I would work with families that their lights were turned off. And I would say, "You've got to go get their lights turned on," or we were actually just talking about this, last night with one of my kids, and he's like, "Remember how we used to, turn the lights on, for people because that they needed it," and I was able to do that, and so, I would, I'm just a helpful giver. And I would be, I loved helping families, not just their children. I was obviously there for the child, but, helping, the families out too, which in turn also helps their child. And so, it was just, such a rewarding, job because you could see, the families grow through the years as I helped them. And, I still keep in touch with a handful of them now. And sometimes I'll show up at book signings. And one of my student, or one of my, not my student, but one of my, kids, he's in a local college up here, although he lived about an hour away with his family. And so it's really fun to pop over to local college because at 7 is when they would leave my practice and go to a more of adult practice. And so it was been just a joy to watch him, flourish and be in his second year of college. So
oh,
it's been great. Yeah. And so
that's
that I would still do it. You can tell I still have passion for it. So I would still do it. And so it's great. And they would crack up. They would be like, "So tell me about your books or, what you're writing." Because I was just I didn't have anything published when I was, back then, when I was starting out. And so a lot of these parents have seen me, grow and, do grow along with their family. It's been a lot
I
of fun.
I was just gonna say that. So that's okay. This this conversation is fabulous because this is literally leading into the next thing that I wanted to talk with you about. You handwrite birthday cards for
Yes.
if people sign up for the birthday card newsletter, not newsletter,
Yes.
but they
Yeah.
sign up for it.
It's free. Right.
You handwrite. You had a stack of
Yes.
birthday cards. And speaking of which, it is my dear friend Kelly's birthday today. Would
Oh,
you
happy
please?
birthday, Kelly. Yes, I love it. I mean, my husband's birthday was yesterday, so we celebrate all month.
For
So, and then
sure.
I have a son, his birthday's on the 26th. So I love April birthdays. So happy birthday, Kelly.
So thank you. And
I love it.
I asked her if she would have a question for you. So I would love to read her question. And let's see. So, what American or international cozy book or TV series do you turn to when you want to relax?
Gosh, I love Midsummer Murder. And I love them because they're longer than the 45 minutes to an hour. They're usually about an hour and a half. And I'm also into Rosemary and Thyme. I know they haven't had any of those. I love all the British mysteries.
Yes.
So that is, I do BritBox. And so I will, between books that I'm writing, I generally won't pick up a book. I'll generally binge watch just some old British stuff. I love it. Yeah. So that's what I really gravitate to Midsummer Murder or Rosemary and Thyme. So
Very cool.
yeah.
Thank you. That was
Yeah.
for
But
you, Kelly, and happy birthday
thank
to
you,
your husband
Kelly.
as well. So I love
Oh,
it. That's
thanks.
awesome.
Yeah.
So, that being said, and we love Acorn and BritBox. Like we
Yeah,
love the British. The British just know how to do cozies. I don't know. There's
for
just
sure.
something I just love. I didn't realize I was into cozies. Like my mom, like we grew up watching, BBC type of shows or
Oh,
PBS
yeah.
type of shows, and I never realized they were cozies until I started reading. And I got into cozies very late. I just started. I think the very first cozy I read was like a year or two ago. So I'm very new to the cozy, and I embraced it wholeheartedly. I love
What
that.
did you read? What
Um,
genres?
so it's Tara Lush. She has a coffee
Oh, I
series.
love Tara.
So, hi
Yeah.
Tara.
Yeah,
She was on
she's
the show
great.
too. Yeah,
Oh,
she's
she
great.
was
Yeah,
great. I
yeah,
love that. Oh,
yeah,
I'll go back and watch it because I love her. So, so kind. Such a good soul.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
I love that you guys like all know each like so that here's the next question. Do you go to writers conferences? Do you go to writers events? Like do you meet other like do you do all the circuit? That's the word I was looking for.
The
Have you done the
circuit.
writing circuit?
So I guess it's two things. Like, are you talking like writer conferences for writers or reader conferences where you meet up with readers?
Readers.
Um, right. And so I do those, but I do them like I used to do a lot, and there's just so much of me. And so you get just so exhausted. So I will do maybe two or three a year, but other than that, it just depends on what they are. So this year I've already done two. I did one in Florida, and then I just recently did one in, let's see, that was in Suffolk, Virginia. And so I was the headliner there. So that was kind of fun. And so it was like 50 other authors. And then it just depends also, where they are in the time of year. Like last year, I hardly get out west. And so last year I did some in Texas and also in Denver and Colorado. So I try to get out there. But that is a big, thing with my readers. Like, when are you coming here? When you come in there? So every year I put on my own mystery event somewhere different in the United States. And it's a mystery train with another author, Duffy Brown. And so we do 2 days on a mystery train. And so we've had it several places all over the United States, and we're in our 10th year. Or yeah, last year was our 10th year. And so so I'm like, okay, if y'all want a ticket, we make no money off of it. Literally, all it is what the train charges us is what we charge the reader, because I don't want to pay taxes on all that and I don't want to do all that. But we end up doing having a book signing, but it's become like it first started out just for the train. And we didn't even take any books the first time because we just wanted to meet the readers. And they're like, "Where's the books?" And we're like, "Oh, you want books?" And because truthfully, it was just to meet readers. And so, and it was a lunch train with, and I had gotten a mystery theater to come on, and do a murder mystery. And now it's turned into a whole weekend. And so last year, it was here in Northern Kentucky, and we did, we're so close to Cincinnati that we did the underground. It was during the Prohibition, so where they smuggled all the booze and stuff. So we did the underground Cincinnati tour, and then we did the gangster tour here in Northern Kentucky, and then we did the next day did the instead of a train, we did a boat, the B&B river boat, and we had a mystery troupe come on there and do the mystery. But it's a full weekend now, and so I do that, and that's kind of that really is it. It's just really hard to write and stay on schedule and to go to all these events. But I do try to do a couple a year. Yeah.
Where
See, I can be very long winded. So when you say we'll be all over the place, like my readers call me a squirrel because I like go from here. I have a thought, I do that, but I always circle back around. Oh, you'd like that too, Michelle?
and I kind of feel like I'm more like tangential. I'm like, ooh, this. Oh, that reminds me. But so thank you for that. That's because you do a lot for the readers. Do you
I
still do
do.
your Tuesday chats, online
So
chats?
we do. So I've been gone for the past month, so I haven't done it. I did it the other night, and so I try to do it every Tuesday at noon, or sometimes it's at 7 o'clock, depending on when. Because sometimes I'll get emails, say, "Hey, can you do it later?" I'm like, "Okay," so I just do it later. But I do. So I was a reader. I didn't start reading until I was in my late 30s. And so what happened was that I had fell in love with an author that was just fabulous, and she had messaged me and said, "I'm coming to Kentucky to a book signing. I got, I need a place to lay my head." And I'm like, "Oh my gosh!" And this author, she had movies and everything. I'm like, "You have no idea who I am. We could get to the holler, and we just might kill you." If you just hear dueling banjos playing out, and so, but she showed up, and she had put me in charge of an event that she was putting together just for her readers. And when she came, not only do I love her because she's a romance writer, and not only did I love her books, but I walked away that week with a wonderful new friend. I felt like I watched her with her readers at this event. And she opened the Kentucky Book Festival down in Frankfort. And I watched her and kind of helped her that weekend. And I felt so seen by her. And when I would talk to her, and I thought, oh my gosh, if I ever did write, I want a reader to feel that way when they approach me or talk to me. And so I'm kind of, I'm just an open book. And I think it's kind of like more my Southern thing. Like if you're going to come into my house, which whether it be internet or literally in my house or to a book signing, I'm going to smother you with, "Oh my gosh, here's an Entenmann's cake. Let me get you a tea. I'll get you a coffee, sit down, let's gossip, all the things." And because I truly do want them to be seen, and I do, and that's every one of them. And I want them to know how much I appreciate them when they show up to a book signing. It just floors me. I mean, it totally floors me, and because it's just unbelievable that something as silly as the little cozy mysteries that I make up that half the time don't make sense. Which is okay. It's the Mark Twain quote where he talks about those some writers are like fine wine, people that like the fine wine, but everybody needs water. That's not the real quote, but that's the gist of it. And I feel like I'm that water, and everybody needs water. So I'm the palate cleanser. I want them to escape. And I want them to kind of laugh and, they're cheesy and I love them. And that's why I'm not a trained writer. I never wanted to be a writer. I have a report card that says, that I usually carry around with me. It's a big yellow report card from the 70s that says, Tanya would have passed English if she had just turned in one of the three required book reports. So when I say I was not destined to be a writer, Michelle, I was not. And my mama hates when I say that because she was a stay-at-home mom. And I always say, Mom, where were you? Because she travels with me a lot. And so she's like, oh my gosh. But I just learned that from that author, and the feeling has never gone away. And, I hope that when I meet these readers, or even just like you said, sending the birthday cards, so I've been doing that for years because I'm like, oh, it's your birthday. I love celebrating birthdays. And if I get emails, it'll say, because sometimes I'm like, oh, it's thousands a month at this point. And so I'm like, oh, should I do this anymore? I don't even know how many people there were still reaching. Some people might have moved. I don't know. They can update their address, but I'll get, emails that just say, you'll be I got your postcard or your birthday card, and that'll be the only one I receive. And I'm just like, and I don't want anything, and I just think, oh my gosh, that made me feel like I made a difference in their day. And I don't care if they pick up my books and read them at all. As a matter of fact, I think like in very small print, it might have Tonya Kappes. I just saw them Tanya, they're probably thinking, who is this? Nothing with the book on it. There's nothing, and so, I just hope that, I can touch just one person a day, even if a week, I'm happy with that.
I love that. And
So I know I'm goofy.
no, it's not. So okay, so this I okay, so Maya Angelou had, and I'm gonna paraphrase her too. It's something to the effect of people don't necessarily remember what you said to them, they remember how you treated them. And
Right.
that's exactly what you're talking about. And this is going to be perfect for this is how it's all going to connect. So there's something about coffee that brings people together, and they don't even have to like coffee. This is literally the opening line of your book, right after the drip, 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 the onomatopoeia
Yeah.
part, which, by the way, I love onomatopoeia. I love saying it, and I love onomatopoeia. So you have drip, drip, drip. You have several, bear with me here. I've got 4 pages of notes. And so you use the onomatopoeia in there several different times, and I just loved it. I thought it was really cute. Oh, you had the beep, beep, beep. So, because I do that too, like I put that in my writing, and I always wonder, I'm like, I wonder if people think like this is childish, or if it's unnecessary. And so, shh, don't tell my publisher, because they just cut out the beep 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 part of one of
Oh,
my little blogs, and I was like,
yeah.
but I really like the beep 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 in there.
I know. I know. And but people did that to me too. And I'm like, that's me. That's how I write. I'm leaving it in there.
I think we're gonna put it back in. I was like, can we? I think because we like mark notes and stuff, and so I was like, can we
Yeah.
just keep that in there? But
Yes.
shh, you didn't hear me say that. Um, so let's talk about Scene of the Grind, the cute little book that you have behind you there with the cute little schnauzer on it.
Yes.
So
Oh,
your marketing of your cozies is just absolutely adorable. I love how you have the coffee cup and the steam and a skull coming from it. Like that is just brilliant.
thank
Did you
you.
create that?
So my son is an architect, and he came up with that years ago. And I said, when he was in college, I said, because I changed the logo probably 8 or 9 years ago, and when he was in college, and I said, I want something with like a steam and a coffee cup. And so he created it, and so I'm like, this is. And so now he has a 3D printer, and he has all like the laser stuff. So like for all the holidays, I'll get like some cool, like over top of my writing shed in the woods. He's got a piece of wood that he had, I don't know, done something with and made it beautiful, like a plaque. And he has that coffee cup, and it says Tonya Kappes book. So when you enter my she shed, that you have to enter underneath this little sign. It's so cute. But he did. He came up with it. And I loved it because. In the first line there, like you said, it talks about there's something about coffee because as a kid, I come from a pretty large Southern family, but we're from the country. And so, we did tobacco and farming and all those things. And I still have 80 something relatives there. It's just a small town in central Kentucky. And so, a lot of people you just stop over and like, let's have a cup of coffee. So as a kid, yeah, it just like this, as a kid, we don't knock, we don't lock our doors. They still don't knock. They still don't lock the doors. So people just show up and it's at like 8 o'clock at night. Oh, let me put on a pot of coffee, And so, and I just remember as a kid, just so many fun memories of that and still do it when I go home. Like I say, I call that home. I say my stuff lives here in Northern Kentucky, but home is down in Nicholasville. And so, just as a matter of fact, I was there last week, and a friend of mine, her family is a third generation of the local little town florist. And so I was going to go get a spray for my daddy's stone and his in the grave, his gravestone. And so I just popped in. I hadn't seen them probably since Daddy passed, which has been a year and a half. And so I popped in, and the door flings open. She's like, Tonya, what in the world are you doing here? And so let's have, come in and chat. And so, of course, over a cup of coffee. And I sat there at the florist for an hour and a half and chatted, just on my way and just popping in. And so it was really fond memories. And so I'm not a barista, obviously, but I did take classes for this book at a local it's a coffee shop. And so in the back, they teach you roasting classes and all the barista things. So I did take classes, so I would at least have some knowledge. And she's also a lawyer. And so I have a couple of family members that are lawyers. And so I knew that, she was divorced. And so I knew that she could open up this coffee shop and that would give her a good footing in this small town that she would visit where her aunt lives, and that coffee brings people together. And there was so much gossip slung over. Michelle, and we're Southern, the Lord has put it on my heart to pray about, Sue Ann over here. And then you say, oh, let me get a cup of coffee because, honey, the Lord would not want you to bear that all on your own. So as a child, this is how the gossip, and it was okay to gossip that way, right? I'd be like, and of course, my granny would say, you can have a little sip, but don't tell your mama and daddy. Or they would dunk their Oreos in their coffee and give me an Oreo. So at a young age, I just have been around coffee. So I knew that I wanted to center a cozy mystery series around a coffee shop because it's what I know.
I love it. And that was actually going to be, you mentioned about barista school. So I actually have a question. Like I was going to ask you, did you actually go to barista school? So that's very cool. Can you see the image in the
Yes,
chat? So
I
we'll make,
need that.
right? So you mentioned the 1960s Volkswagen Beetle in
Yeah,
the book, and
yeah.
this is actually an option in the Volkswagen Beetle. It had a coffee maker
I did
back in
not
the
know
day.
that. That was
I
Chrissy's. That's Chrissy's car.
I'm like, oh my God. I was like, we
Uh,
have to talk about this coffee maker in the Volkswagen
yes.
Beetle.
And
Like,
how do we get one of those?
they need to bring it back. Do they not?
Yeah. Yes, and it looks like it's like a percolator
Uh-huh.
almost.
Uh-huh.
And then I wonder if the engine,
Yeah,
you know,
it powers it. I was
powers
just
it.
like, oh my
I'm gonna have to
God.
Google that. What year is that?
I don't know. I just
I'm
did a
gonna
Google
Google it.
search. Yeah, I was like, I just did a Google search on Volkswagen Beetle coffee maker, and it pops up, and there's various and I want to say that I think they're thinking about trying to bring something like that back. So
They need to.
they do. I've had four Volkswagens, and I'm like, where's my coffee maker?
Yeah. Oh my gosh, that's why I love my drivable camper. Is because they can be driving it. I can make my percolator, and I'm like, have coffee while we're riding and driving. I don't have to stop. It's so good. And so, if I could get a car, I have a Fiat, so it's tiny.
Yeah, the little one.
Like, yeah, so I could definitely get a coffee maker in that sucker.
I'm surprised they don't have a little espresso make.
Mm,
I mean, it's an Italian
They
car. I
don't.
mean, come
Yeah,
on,
they
right?
don't. The
Boy,
nerve,
I know. Gosh, they're
the
and
nerve.
it shouldn't be that expensive of an option. Uh,
No, but it would be probably.
it'll be 5,000 extra. All
Yeah,
right.
probably. But I love
Um,
it.
totally. So, coffee, 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 because
Coffee.
coffee connects people.
Yeah.
So, if you were to walk into the bean hive, what would you order?
Okay. I would probably order right now um a probably a lavender latte
Oh, yum.
because that would be good, or something with honeysuckle because we like to do honeysuckle here in Kentucky. We love honeysuckle cake. I love to have a honeysuckle infused latte, and so the honeysuckles will start blooming fairly quickly. Like outside, they're starting to bloom, and we have lots of them. So that's why they're very popular to use and to eat with. And so I'd probably get something with because lavender is good right now too. So probably something which I try to put in all the books as well. So something local like lavender, maybe a lavender latte. Yeah,
Yum.
yeah,
Yum.
very good.
Yum.
Yeah.
So, how many cups of coffee do you drink in a day right now?
Well, so I like I said, I like good strong coffee. So I at least have 2 cups in the morning, and I'm talking. This is a tiny cup. Like these are cups that I like to like have my logo, my lipstick, because I always have to have lipstick on. And I know it's terrible. And so not they're bigger than this. They're bigger coffees, like the one on your screen. So I'll have 2 of those that are percolated, with good strong coffee. And then I will have like one right now, which is afternoon for me, and I just finished writing on my words, so that's a treat. Like I save it for a treat, and then I'll have another one. Like I get off work at 4. Like I try to get off work at 4 every day, and so to relax, I will pick up a book, an actual physical book. And although I like digital too, but I'm in my mid 50s now, and I have to wear readers, and I mean, even though I can make the text go up, I like a physical book sometimes with my readers. So I'll read a book at 4 to like 5, and I'll have a nice another big cup of coffee. And then if somebody stops over and stops by, then I gotta, have another one. But usually the last I can drink a coffee up until bedtime, a full loaded coffee, and it does not bother me at all. My sister can too. So she always pops over and she's like, come over for a coffee. I'm like, okay, great. And so and then some, and I have a coffee pot, but I only get that out if I'm having like a get together. So generally in their strong cups of coffee. And so I would say on average at least 5,
And how do you take it? Do you put cream, sugar, honey?
just black.
Just black. I love
Yep,
it.
just black.
So I call that apocalypse coffee because, I do like a little bit of cream. I just actually stopped adding sugar to my coffee, so so now I just do 2 creams. But
Doctoring it up.
I doctor it up. Uh, but I admire you guys because you can drink it just black. So I call that I was like, you guys will survive the apocalypse. You can handle coffee just plain.
Yeah, I can't. I can survive it. I can survive on coffee and be just as happy as could be.
For
Definitely.
sure.
I know. It's crazy, but like I said, I think it was just so popular. Like when I was home again last week, my cousin messaged and she said, "I'm coming over for some coffee." And I'm like, all right. And so, and that was really like, I'm just coming over so I can visit and we can chit chat. And so again, just over that coffee. And I think that is like in a cozy mystery, it's not about always solving the mystery. Like I'm not trying to cover up who the killer is. Like I'm kind of like those shows or whatever, like the British shows, like who did it, but just taking you to the end. But then, like the secondary characters and the settings of all my books are a character in themselves, and so that's the way I looked at the Bean Hive. And I wanted, readers to feel like they were there and, enjoying the coziness of a coffee, even if they don't drink coffee. So,
Absolutely. And I love how when you really immersed us into the Bean Hive, you talked about the chalkboard menus, and you really just, and like I did, I felt like I was right there in this imaginary coffee shop, and I was like, ooh, I can smell it, I can feel it, I can hear it. I'm there. And so I wanted to ask you, when you are writing, because you also, not only do you have coffee drinks in there, you have a lot of food in there. You had
yeah.
honey donuts, apple honey crisp, tea cookies, quiches, and sausage casserole. So, do you make
I
yourself
think
hungry when you write your
Oh my
books?
gosh, I'm going to look at it because I think, see, so some of those are from readers. So and it'll say submitted by reader, by a reader. And so it's so funny because I'll say, oh, I want, like this reader, she's passed that sent me this one. But I will like sometimes say, oh, give me your recipes if you want it to maybe be in a book or whatever. And so some of it are their recipes, but the ones that have my name or my family's name are family recipes. And so I do bake those. And so I do test out all the recipes. And about every other year, I'll have like a baking contest at Christmas where they have to send me their recipes and I'll bake them and then I'll have like my family try them and they get a winner and they get a certificate. One of the readers do. And I have a Patreon. And so every November, they send me recipes for our Friendsgiving and I'll say, oh, I'm going to use this in one of the killer coffees and, one of their recipes and they love it. But then they all get their recipes put together in a book that I send them because they're in Patreon. But I always put the coffee. And as far as the coffee recipes, so I have a friend that works at a small town coffee shop. So she helps me out with those. And she'll say, well, this is what I'm making now, and this is what I'm making, and this is how you do it. And so I will go there, order a coffee and taste it, and then if it makes it into the book or not. So yeah.
So, have you had a red eye? Do you drink red eyes? You mentioned it in the
No.
book.
I do not, but my nephew does. And so that's how I knew about it. Yeah.
Same here. I love coffee, but I don't think I've ever done a red eye. I can't recall if I've ever done a red eye. Like
Yeah.
that's a little too much
That's
baba.
hard. Yeah. It's a little hardcore. And I'm like, I don't want to tempt my streak of having an 8 o'clock coffee and being able to go to bed an hour later.
Totally, totally. I can
Yeah.
relate to
Yeah.
that. A couple of questions here, relating back to writing. So when you are writing, so when you're creating these characters, you did mention how like sometimes real life does play into these characters, but because you have so many different I don't want to call them genres, but so many different types of mysteries that you do. And I know you have your address book, so that helps keep your characters. But is there a character that you just, and I know you're not supposed to say this about your characters, just like your children, but is there a character that you really enjoy writing?
Oh my gosh. In this series or in any series? This
This
series in
series
particular. Well, I
or
tell you
any
what,
series?
you'd mentioned the dog. I love writing the little animals, even though they don't have speaking parts, not paranormal, because I do have paranormal mysteries. But I love writing the animals in this series because it's part of again they're adoptable animals, and adoption is important to me because I had schnauzers that were also adopted. I had three schnauzers, and that's kind of what this book was. Or after them. And then I introduced, a lot of readers and stuff to this breed. But I love it because, I try to write the sweet schnauzer as what it would feel like to have a dog, took his responsibilities of walking the dog, feeding the dog. Like you see her do all those things. But if I had to pick a human character in this series, I thought it was going to be Aunt Maxie, but I think it's Loretta who steals the show, because she is so it's hysterical. So it's kind of, she like spray tan. She's very southern, and she says, "My name is Loretta," and that's how we do things. We can make a one syllable word five, and it's just fine, for us. And so we get it. So like I remember when I had gone to call when I was in college, I'm like, "Oh, give me that pen." And my friends are like, "What?" And I'm like, "I need that pen." And they're like, "What are you talking about?" I'm like, "The pen." And they're like, "Oh, do you mean a pen?" And I'm like, "Oh, I can't say pen, like a writing pen, without saying pen. It's a pen." And so, like, my nephew is named Ben, but it's Ben. And so I'm like, "I'm going to go see Ben." And they go, "What do you mean?" And I'm like, because they weren't used to, that. And it was at the University of Kentucky where they didn't live. They weren't from there. And I'm like, "You're the one that's from Ohio, not me. You get with the program, when in Rome." And I don't mean Rome, Kentucky. So I think Loretta, she just kind of embeds a lot of the Southern women in my life that I would never be. And so for instance, like my mom, she wears pearls. I don't even own pearls. And so she, like the other day, I FaceTimed her and I'm like, "Where are you going?" She had her pearls on, just going to the gym. And I went, "In your pearls?" Because she had lipstick on, she had the whole thing. And but see, it's just like that. And so we are some Native American. And so my grandfather was half. And so my son, where Loretta always claims that she's Cherokee, well, my son, who doesn't look a bit like it, he rocks it hard. Like he'll say, "Oh yeah, I got some Cherokee in me," and I'm like, "In your toe." And so, I kind of took that from him. And so as I was visiting him a couple of months ago in Georgia, where he's at, and some of his buddies down there said, "Oh," because one of them owns a vintage shop, and so I said, "Oh, he would love that shirt." When I saw this Native American, we are not offended by saying Indian in our family because it's part of who we are, and so he said, "Oh yeah," he said. "He rides that hard that he's got that in him." I just said, "Really?" So, even to say he's a grown up. But and so I think she's so funny because, like, here, if we just have a little bit of that in us, we're so proud of it, right? And so and then she is over the top fancy. And I think that I had no idea when I first wrote her that she would be a fan favorite. So she's a lot of fun to write now, and to give her all the, silly Southern sayings, like when it rains, it's a frog strangler. She's like, "It's a frog strangler out here." And so that's what we've been saying a lot lately in Kentucky because it has rained for a week. But so I think that as a human character, it would be her. But going back to the the animals is just kind of, again, I think writers, and probably you, which I would love to hear about your writing as well. Some of your personality or your beliefs kind of come out in your writing, right? And so I believe in adoption and kindness and community and acceptedness. And so I think that comes out in this series. And just even being able to bring awareness to adoption. So in the series, a few books in, two of my schnauzers had died within a couple months of each other, and my vet had sent a donation into a local no-kill shelter, which is beautiful. It's a Ritz-Carlton for all animals. They all, like, if the dogs, like if they get along, can live in one room, and then they have a swinging door to their very own fenced in yard, and the cats have a catio when they go through their swinging door. And it's just beautiful. And so, my one schnauzer, he was in a puppy mill whenever I found him. And so, but they had both passed. And so I put on social media a picture of the donation letter that my vet had sent. And that local no kill shelter had sent me a letter and said, I don't know who you are, but your vet sent in a donation for your animals, and then now we have been receiving thousands of dollars from people that are donating in your animals. And so what was happening was readers were sending them donations for their shelter. And so, that is kind of how we got our cat. And so, because we went there to thank them, and they were like, "Oh, do you want to see the dogs?" I'm like, "Oh no, I can't. And I'm still heartbroken to this day. I don't have a dog because it just tore me up." And so they're like, "Oh, do you want to see the cat?" I'm like, "Oh yeah, we'll go see the cats. We're not cat people." Well, literally an hour later, we walk out with a cat, and I call my sister. I'm like, there's a whole long story with that, but I won't bore you with it. And I call my son had FaceTime. He's like, "Where are you at?" Because it was Father's Day weekend, so we're nearing the anniversary, and my mom's in the background going, "There's not nearly a brown bean on this stove," and I was hosting it. They had traveled up to here because they don't live by me, and so I'm like, "I'm getting a cat, and go tell my sister Tracy. I go tell Tracy to go to the Walmart, get me a carrier, some food, and I mean all this stuff." And so, we, oh my gosh, it's the funniest thing. I've got to get something to show you.
Sure,
So
sure.
we had, it was Father's Day, and my kids are like, "You're getting a what?" I'm like, "A cat." And so, of course, that was that day. And I made them
Aw.
all stand there and look at how happy they all look. Like, look at that one. He's like, "A cat?" And so, so now we have the famous Rowena.
I was like, this is
And
Rowena.
yeah, and that is Rowena, and that's how we got her. And you know what? She walks on a leash. She loves to go camping, and on the campground where there's mainly dogs, I walk her and I hear people go, "Is that a cat?" And somebody say, "On a leash." I'm like, "Why is that strange?" And so that's how we got the famous Rowena. And so, I tried to back around to the squirrel. I tried to the adoption. I tried to, have people, learn about different, adoption, and although I don't really have them learn about the animals, just if I continue to put in a book, I think in my head and I believe that people that, oh, it's adoption, or that's like, the Beehive and Roxy. It's no different than a cat cafe. So, I decided that that's how I would put my belief of that in the story.
I love it. That's Pet
So,
Palace. You the Pet Palace.
yeah,
Um,
Pet Palace.
it's so we I sent you the picture of my mom's so that was actually my mom's second schnauzer.
Oh, I love
Her
that.
first schnauzer was actually from a puppy mill in we think Missouri is where they rescued him from.
Yeah,
And he was like so stuck. He's actually more like Pepper. He's very silver. He was more
yeah,
silver, where the photo that I sent you of Fritz, he's more black.
yeah.
But I don't have any pictures with Alexei, his name. My mom loved to give, even though he's a
Oh,
German dog, she loved to
yeah,
give him Russian names.
yeah,
So Alexei, he was you could definitely tell he was from a mill. Like he just wasn't
yeah,
snuggly. But he still was lovable. He still was
yeah.
we called him he was a not a violent lover, but he wasn't a gentle lover. Let's just put it that way. He jumped on your lap. He like jumped on your lap and then got in your face. And you were
Yeah,
like, oh,
yeah.
hello. He
Yes,
wasn't,
I want you to look at me right now
yeah,
on my terms. Yeah,
exactly. So it was
yeah,
actually really sweet to see, to read the donations and about the pet palace. And then
yeah.
I was like, oh yeah, that's right. My parents donated, or not donated, they adopted. And then the second Pepper, or not Pepper, sorry, Fritz. he had a terrible story too. Like he got in a terrible fight, and I guess like his eye, like it was awful. Like so, they put his eye back. I think he had like part of his face. Like they put this
Yeah.
poor little guy back together, and my parents were like, "Yeah, we're taking him."
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Like,
Like my
yeah.
first schnauzer, I was a teacher and the cops had gotten him from a home where they had actually cut off his paws and I mean it was terrible. And
Oh
so
my God,
he had a hernia. And he had distemper. But buddy, I tell you what, when he found my home, because I was a teacher and I'm like was poor, and my parents were like, "Yes, we will help you," because I could not afford to do that. And so we loved him. And I would come home from school teaching, and there'd be a note on the door from my dad that said, "Came and got Herbie." He wanted to go to Granny and Granddaddy's because before I had kids. He said, that's when I lived at home, and he or lived in their area. And he'd say, "Come over for supper." And so I'd go over for supper, and Herbie was so happy. And, people would say, "I saw it," or, I would see him around town. They say, "I saw your dad the other night riding around town with Herbie." I'm like, "Yeah, he comes and gets him." And then
that's
little
adorable.
Scooter, Herbie had passed, and we had Charlie, and we had looked for another schnauzer, and there was an ad in the paper, and I'm like, "Oh, let's go look at these schnauzers." And of course, I should not have taken a kid. And so I took a kid, and then we get there, and it's this old country barn, and it was a puppy mill, and I had never seen one before. And you can tell my kids named my dogs because this was Scooter, and so he was he was a puppy, and he was hanging from the rafters of a barn in a crate, like
Oh,
a wire crate.
oh my
So
God,
so I'm like, okay, well, we'll think about it. And I'm like trying to get my kid out of there, and my kid, he's crying, and he's like, "We can't leave without him." I'm like, "Yes, we are. We're calling the police." And he's like, "We can't leave without him." So I'm like, oh my gosh. So I stalked back up in there, give the man the money, take the dog. And Scooter couldn't walk because he was such a puppy, like he had no solid ligaments and joints. And so, of course, right off the bat, I had to spend money on getting therapy. But anyways, and so we did get the place shut down. But but it's just something so needed, for the shelter dogs or these puppy mills. And so and I get a lot of emails that say, "Oh, I went and got a dog from the shelter," or adopted a dog from, wherever it was from. So, sometimes it's not a shelter, they're the no kill, places. And so, I love that I do that, because I would love for people to adopt. I'd love that.
yeah.
So, but I love that. Thank you for sending your mom's picture and your
Oh,
picture of you with Fritz. So it's so darn cute. But yeah, my schnauzers have all been silver.
yeah,
And so, yeah. So, what do you
beautiful.
write?
So I write about coffee.
Yeah.
My everything is coffee. So I started writing blogging. That was
Yes, I've
how I
read your
started.
blog. Yes.
Thank you. Yes, when you said if that was a coffee or a cappuccino, I was like, oh, someone did their homework. I was like,
Yes.
literally, I
And
was
I've
like,
listened to the podcast. Yeah.
Tanya
I
did.
didn't know Tara was on there though, but I'm going back.
Yeah,
Yes.
absolutely. Yeah, thank you. No, so I write coffee centric blogs, nonfiction. So and
Yeah.
the reason I did that was because as as a kid I wanted to be a writer, but it wasn't really fostered. Like the concept of like the arts was something that you did as a hobby, not something that you do as a job.
Mhm.
So fast forward, I graduated grad school at 40, and then I became a technical writer. So everything I do is very nonfiction writing.
Yeah.
And so I decided to just kind of dip my toe in the water. I was like, well, what do I know? I know drinking coffee. I hang out with my friends and we drink coffee and we write. And that's what I started doing in high school. My friends and I, we would sit at Bob's Big Boy. That's so I'm Gen X. So Bob's Big Boy was our favorite thing to do was go sit at Bob's Big Boy or Denny's, and we would sit in a booth, and there would be like four of us, and we would write a couple lines on a piece of paper and then pass it to the person to the left. And you were only allowed to read the first sentence, and then you would just continue. So we called it writers in the round.
That's hilarious.
So we would just write. So even though I was writing, I didn't. It was just something that I just did and I never really like pursued it. And then when I became a widow, everything just kind of crashed and I was like,
Mm-hmm.
okay, it's time to reassess my life because I don't know who I am. I don't know what I'm doing now. So why don't I go to the things that I love and I know? Coffee and writing. And so it just
Mm-hmm.
kind of started with me writing letters to the ether. I called it letters, and I did. I would sit and drink my cup of
Mm-hmm.
coffee. I was, sad, lonely, lost as hell, and I would just sit there and just write letters. And then I started blogging about, what I was going through and experiencing, and it just was very cathartic. And
Oh yeah.
then, yeah, right, writing is very
Yeah.
cathartic. And
Yeah.
then I decided, okay, Carrie Bradshaw in Sex and the City
Yeah.
did a book of her columns.
Yeah.
Why can't I do a book of my blogs?
You sure can.
And I
It
did.
was great.
I did.
It was great. Yeah.
So that's what we did. We
I
we
love it.
took we took my blogs and we put them into a book. And so that I this is my old version. So don't tell my publisher again. This is my
I
old
won't.
version. This is my punk rock version. This is I self-published. I slapdashed it together, and I was like, by 53, I was like, I'm gonna be a
I'm
published writer.
doing that.
I'm
Yeah.
doing it. And
I love it.
now I have a publisher, and it's all polished, and we have proper marketing and things of that nature. But it's still
I love
coffee
it.
and writing and talking, and I love talking with writers about books and coffee. So
Yeah. I
thank you
love
for asking.
that.
Thank you.
Congratulations. I think that's great.
Thank
I love
you.
it.
Thank
I love it.
you. So you also mentioned banned books since we're talking about books and writing. You also mentioned
Yes.
banned books. So I did not use my banned books mug, but I love banned books week and I drink
Yes.
every day from my banned book mug. Do you
Yes.
have a favorite banned book?
Oh my gosh. I think when Little Women had got banned um, for a bit, that was it kind of pissed me off. And so that probably was one of my favorites. And so I'm like, wait, what? And so I think that again, you go back to your beliefs and some of the little bit of your beliefs come in through your writing. And so, that's what I thought, oh, this is going to be good, for the coffee shop and the books and, she had for readers or out there, listeners that don't know, she had the victim had a stamp across her head that said banned. And so, as a matter of fact, I'm writing the next book in the series, and the banned books. She's perusing the banned book section at the Crooked Cat in this next book as well. But we're way down to like book 17 or something. So, but yeah. What about you?
So the one that I've read the most would be Fahrenheit 451.
Oh yeah,
I've
yeah.
read that one 3 or 4 times, and
There's just so many. It's just so hard to
I
pick,
know it's
right?
so hard to pick, but that's the one that I keep going back to. And I just love Ray Bradbury. Like he's just
Yes.
there's something about
Yeah.
yeah, about him. And
Yeah.
I did get to see him before he passed. He was still wheelchair bound, and he had his assistant do most of the talking for him. And but it was the sweetest thing to see
Ah,
was to be able to sit in this room with Ray Bradbury down there, and it was Friends of the
yeah.
Library, so they had invited him to do a talk, and
In
he
California?
yeah, it was in
Oh,
Claremont,
wow.
and it was
Lucky.
yeah, I was like, okay, you know what? If I get hit by a car today, it's okay because I just saw Ray Bradbury. Like life is good.
Wow.
So so that's probably why I probably gravitate towards Fahrenheit 451 for
Yeah.
that particular because there's a connection with that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um
And it's interesting how it's banned books are different in different regions,
yeah, yeah.
and I just get, I'm just like, what? Like sometimes when they come out with books for Kentucky kids, and I'm like, what? Why? It's just crazy. It's crazy.
It
So
is. It is.
yeah,
And
somebody deserved to to be put in prison for this
I,
in
I
my book.
yeah, it's It's yeah, okay. We could probably have a whole conversation on
A
that.
whole different one. It'd be squirrel.
So
Yeah, but thank you for sharing your journey. I love that you got through a hardship and finding a book, published book, and actually through your hardship found your lifelong passion. It's hard to take, but I love that.
thank you.
I
Yeah, it
love that.
was, thank you. So the podcast and the book are kind of the two things that came from that,
Yeah.
the lowest point of my life.
Mhm.
And then, and then of course, meeting the coffee shop and barista owner, like it literally just kind of, everything just kind of fell into place.
Yeah.
So again, writing, podcasting, and coffee, like, I mean, talk about full circle. Like, it's just
Yeah.
I want to make sure I get to all the questions here.
Sure.
So and you also have on page 19, people who love to read love coffee. So I wholeheartedly agree with you on that.
I hope either coffee or tea, but I'm sticking with coffee.
I'm going to stick with coffee. Okay, we're good. So this is going to be my final question before we sign
Okay.
off here. If you could have a cup of coffee with anyone, alive or dead, who would it be?
My granny. It doesn't
That's
have to be
lovely.
somebody famous. It would just be with my granny. Because she passed when I was 13, so I wasn't really fully allowed to drink coffee yet. But many times that I just sit at her old rickety table in her tiny little house. She couldn't read or write, and so she you know traveled in a covered wagon, years ago. And she was just the cutest little thing. And so, if I could just sit down with her at this age and just talk to her about life and sip on that coffee and be one of those people that was actively engaged with her, during those conversations at that little tiny table. I would, have, and I think that's probably why I like percolated coffee because that's what she has, a percolator. And so and she just, it was great. And like I said, you slip a little drink here, a little drink there. But I think just that because it's such a fond memory, that it would be just to be able to actually have an adult conversation with her.
I love that.
Yeah.
Cheers
Thank
to
you.
your granny. That's,
Cheers to Granny. Dear
yeah.
Coffee, I need you.
I love that. I love that. And you also have turning coffee into books. I love that mug. That's a great
Yeah,
mug.
I do. Thank you. Yeah, I
Yeah.
love all those sayings and so fun. So every morning I greet my social media with a live coffee shot. Every morning
Yes.
I wake up and I have a coffee. I try to do it when I'm on the road too, but sometimes it's not the prettiest of views. So I'm like, I'll skip today. But I always make sure that I greet everybody every morning with a coffee post. So it just gets them started off on their day.
I love that. I love that. Well, Tanya, it has been a true delight talking with you and hearing your stories. And I want to thank you so much for your time today. So thank you for joining
Oh,
us.
thank you, Michelle. I'm honored to be here. I'm so excited. Thank you.
Thank you. If you would please say my tagline, go forth and be magical, then we will wrap up today.
Awesome. And you go forth and be magical.